How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family, I'm still on my grind. I have not let off the pressure of this lion ass so-called black man. And many of us have been anticipating to actually hear from the two grand jurors and what they have to say. So I listened to it very early this morning, but I like to bring y'all videos in the evening when people are coming in. And so it's pretty deep, my royal family. One thing that I want to point out, one grand juror is a black man and one grand juror is a white man. And pay close attention to the type of language that they use. And I'll just leave it right there. So we just gonna get right into it. Won't be no articles read today. We gotta get into this. Let's see here. Let me make sure I got the right one. Let's see here. Yeah, this is the first one here. I think it is. Let's see.
In our exclusive interview, two of the grand jurors in the Breonna Taylor case are describing what happened during the jury's proceedings. Taylor, as you know, was shot and killed in her home during a police raid in March. And no officers have been charged for her death. And the Kentucky Attorney General says that their actions were justified. Jurors number 1 and number 2 told us they were only presented with wanton endangerment charges in the case of one officer who fired into a neighboring apartment. They say that they were shocked that more serious charges were not presented by the Attorney General's office. And they're speaking out now so everyone understands the truth.
The case was, at least for me, was pretty mentally exhausting and upsetting.
What did you think after it became the story that it became and people started marching in the streets?
I was hurting. I was upset. I wasn't sleeping.
My first thought was Breonna's mom. I felt that she needed to know the truth.
I was of the same mindset. I need her to know that it wasn't us.
I can tell you're very emotional, number 1, talking about it.
It's
Where's that emotion coming from?
It's hurt. I mean, I have no idea how she feels. I can only imagine. But I needed her to know that, again, to what number 2 was saying, that we tried. We were only allowed to decide on what they gave to us.
Is it hard for either of you to speak out now because you're going to open up a whole nother door and a whole nother level of conversation?
Yes and no. I mean, doing the right thing is hard. I'm way out of my comfort zone right now.
Grand jurors 1 and 2 tell us that prosecutors did not give them the option to deliberate over manslaughter or murder charges in the case of Breonna Taylor's death. Their lawyer says that Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron misrepresented their findings to the public.
When it's all over and the Attorney General takes his position and speaks to the press and the public and put it all on the grand jury, instead of owning up to whatever decisions were made from that office.
It's clear they were blindsided by Attorney General Cameron's decision.
I agree they were blindsided.
Daniel Cameron, at his press conference, described Breonna Taylor's death as a tragedy but not a crime. What do you say to that?
No, I believe that there was some crime involved.
You know, the whole procedure, the way they got the warrant, it was a hodgepodge team that went in there and they had no coordination.
Can I ask you what you both think of the police behavior and actions that night?
Negligent.
Negligent?
They couldn't even provide a risk assessment, and it sounded like they hadn't done one. So their organization leading up to this was lacking. That's what I mean by they were negligent in the operation.
Number 2?
They were criminal leading up to this, and everything that the way they moved forward on it, including the warrant, was deception.
What do you hope will come out of speaking out today, number 1?
This is all about truth and accountability and being forthright.
My biggest thing was to make sure that Breonna's mom knew that the city of Louisville and Jefferson County, there are good people in that city and in that county, and they stood up and they tried to do the right thing.
And when grand juror number 1 reached out to you, what did he say to you specifically? And what was your reaction when you heard what he had to say?
What I got out of it was the service as a grand juror was over, and the service as a citizen of Kentucky had started. And there was a desire to make that record clear and to give clarity to the entire public.
You feel strongly about it, both of you, juror number 1 and juror number 2,
Yes.
yet you've decided you don't want your identity shown. Why?
Mainly for my family's safety. There's people out there that don't agree with what we're doing. Most people do, but there's a few out there that probably don't, and I just soon keep it that way.
Do you happen to know, or can you say if other jurors feel this way? The way the two of you feel?
It isn't that I can say definitively about other jurors, but I felt that the uproar at the end of it, I would think that yes.
I don't think we're alone in this.
Later this morning, former Louisville officer Brett Hankinson is scheduled to be in court for a pretrial hearing on wanton endangerment charges that he's facing. We did want you to know again that we reached out to Kentucky Attorney General, that's Daniel Cameron, and he did not give us a new statement. But last month he did tell a local Fox affiliate, quote, if the jurors wanted to make an assessment about different charges, they could have done that. You know, both of these men spent a lot of time, you know, they looked at the evidence. I'm always amazed, guys, at how seriously people take this process. Both of them took this as a very, it mattered to them, and they wanted to get it right, and they want people to know this was not their decision.
You could tell when they talked about Breonna Taylor's mother.
Yes, they talked about her
They were
repeatedly.
thinking about, you know, the family involved and what this would mean to them.
They're trying to clarify the record, and that's important. Is there something more that could happen legally if it turns out that the jurors were not given proper instructions?
Well, it's interesting. The FBI, of course, is still investigating this case, and they both would like to see a special prosecutor assigned to it. But Attorney General Daniel Cameron
Is the one who'd appointed.
is the one who makes a decision about a special prosecutor. So they weren't very hopeful about that, Tony, but they would like to see something happen in this case.
That's called the system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
The system is full of shit.
Realistic.
Let's shut this
Make sure
down.
that we're communicating so you know where we are in the county.
So I have another one to play, but before I get into that, so I noticed that the white juror said that the police were negligent. The black juror said they were criminal. Very interesting how we are so different, vastly different. And this next interview that I'm going to present, the other part of the interview that I'm going to present, you will get more details, more in it. You know, it's a trip. I wasn't surprised what I heard. It's just amazing what people are focused on. I was more so focusing on how a black person would describe how they feel in the language that they use opposed to a white person. That was just really profound to me. So let's continue to reveal the rest. This next one is a little over 7 minutes. And I
Begin
would,
this half hour with our exclusive
what I was supposed to do, let's see if we can.
interview with two of the grand jurors in the Breonna Taylor case and their attorney, Kevin Glogauer. Taylor was shot and killed in her home during a police raid back in March. One of the officers at the scene, Brett Hankinson, was fired and charged with wanton endangerment for shooting at the apartment next door. No one was hurt there. But no officers have been charged for Taylor's death, and at least one of the officers involved has defended their actions. The jurors told us authorities never presented them with the option to consider indicting officers on more serious charges for Taylor's death, which left them feeling frustrated, disgusted, and even betrayed. Now, we're not revealing their identities at their request for their safety.
They didn't give us the charges up front when they gave us all of that testimony over 20-something hours, and then to say that these are the only charges that they're coming up with. It's like, what did we just sit through? And then to be told that we're not charging them with anything else, to me, it was a betrayal.
So when you all look, Juror 1 and 2, and you're told that the only thing you need to consider right now is wanton endangerment, did anyone say, hey, are there any other options here? Did either of you say that?
Almost the entire room.
What was the answer that you were given?
Basically, in a nutshell, they said there were other possible charges that we considered, but nothing that we could make stick.
They never gave us the opportunity to deliberate on anything but the charges for Hinkleson. That was it. As a matter of fact, when they announced that those were the only charges, it was an uproar in that room. There was several more charges that could have gone forward on all of those officers, or at least the 3 shooters.
Why is this so extraordinary, Kevin?
Normally, the grand jurors are presented with the law and the charges so that they can listen to the facts with an open mind and apply those facts to the law, almost as a roadmap.
What happened here?
What happened here was it was done in the complete reverse.
What stands out to you the most?
From a legal perspective, it looked like they weren't following the grand jurors, and they only wanted the grand jurors to follow them, which is contrary to the actual rule.
Grand juror number 1 and number 2 say what prompted them to ultimately speak out was that press conference held by Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, which they insist falsely represented their position on potential indictments for the officers involved in Breonna Taylor's death.
I want to go back here just a little bit, my royal family.
General Daniel Cameron, which they insist falsely represented their position.
You see that old white woman back there in the back? She was one of the major attorneys that manipulated this case. So she has a great deal of influence on this spineless, lying motherfucker. Y'all know I ain't gonna put no cut on it, because our queen is laying in the ground. Y'all don't like the way I talk? Get up out of my channel. Her mama sitting at home crying, and they think 12 million of our taxpayer dollars is suffice. Look at how that woman got her head turned. She knows she wrong as fuck. As we continue on
Potential indictments for the officers involved in Breonna Taylor's death.
While there are 6 possible homicide charges under Kentucky law, these charges are not applicable to the facts before us because our investigation showed, and the grand jury agreed, that Mattingly and Cosgrove were justified in the return of deadly fire.
When he stated that there were 6 possible murder charges and that the grand jury had agreed that those didn't apply, the first time I heard the word 6 possible murder charges was in that news conference.
It wasn't presented to you in the grand jury deliberations?
No. And personally, when I do something, I take responsibility for it. We had not done that.
I really felt that this was all Cameron. This was up to him. We didn't get a choice in that at all. So I was livid. By the time I heard what he was saying, everything that came out of his mouth, I was saying liar, because we didn't agree to anything. We never met Cameron.
You've never met Attorney General Cameron?
No, we never met him. He never discussed anything with us.
I think many people will be very surprised to hear that they had no contact with Attorney General Cameron whatsoever.
I agree. If you watch the press conference, it seemed clear from the wording that Mr. Cameron was implying that he played a larger role in the actual presentation.
Is that normally how it works?
Well, the Attorney General in Kentucky doesn't normally present cases to the grand jury. But I think to answer your question, Gail, generally the highest person in the office would at least come introduce themselves to the grand jurors.
Do either of you think there was enough evidence to present charges of murder, attempted murder, manslaughter?
Yes, I think there was. I mean, just all of the evidence there. As we were listening to it, we were sure this was leading up to something like that.
Among the evidence the grand jury heard from the night of the raid was a 911 call from Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker. He says he fired a warning shot at who he thought were intruders. Officers returned fire with 32 bullets.
911 operator Harris, where's your emergency?
I don't know what happened. Somebody kicked in the door and shot my girlfriend.
The thing that stood out to me when I was talking to him, he said, why would I call 911 if I thought it was the police?
That resonated with me because he didn't know who it was that was coming in. You know, he had no idea. You could hear the distress. Everything about what he said was believable. It made sense all the way through.
You found him credible?
Yes.
Totally believable.
Did you find the police credible?
No.
No, there are too many inconsistencies in their story. Now I understand that, you know, in a situation like that, you may not remember, but I didn't find their testimony credible.
What was your understanding about what happened that night?
It was a mess. It didn't seem to me that there was any organization or almost any leadership in the whole operation.
From the evidence that I heard, this thing started out downhill to begin with. You don't need 7 cops to go up to somebody's door and knock on it and say, you know, we're here to do an investigation at 1 o'clock in the morning. It kept going downhill from there. It was one mistake right after the other one, right after the other one. They covered it up. That's what the evidence that I saw. And I felt like there should have been lots more charges on that. They covered it up.
Now, later this morning, former Louisville officer Brett Hankinson is scheduled to be in court for a pretrial hearing on the wanton endangerment charges that he's facing. We did, by the way, reach out to Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron. He did not give us a new statement, but last month he did tell a local Fox affiliate if the jurors had wanted to make an assessment about different charges, they could have done that. The jurors, as you see, disagree with that.
They didn't get that aware of it.
Yeah. I mean, juror number 1 is white, juror number 2 is black, and it was juror number 1 who was so upset that reached out to attorney Kevin Logauer because he said, I don't know what to do with this. This is so frustrating.
Well, you can understand why they were livid at the Attorney General's comments.
Yeah, they were being told that they went along with something that they clearly did not.
And that's what upset them. It took them, they said, a minute, under 2 minutes to deliberate on the charges because all they had to consider were the wanton endangerment. We'll talk more with them at 8 o'clock about the toll that it's taking.
But you can obviously see, this is just 2 members of the grand jury, we should say, but they had a very different conclusion than
But Anthony, I did ask, do you think other jurors feel this way? They said, look, we can't speak for other jurors, but there was an uproar in the room that everybody was unanimous in their anger about the decision.
But, well, we don't presume to speak for those other jurors either, but it's very clear these jurors were not represented in what the Attorney General said.
Very interesting. Incredible interview.
All right, my royal family, let me take this down. That was all that I could find in this interview because it was broke down. So I got like 7 minutes on one and 5 on the other. If I can find any more, because I usually dig till I can't dig anymore, I will present it to you, my royal family. And so what got me was they never even met him. So this spineless coon motherfucker outright lied. And now he's waltzing around like everything is business as usual. Check this out. It's just a snippet. It's 46 seconds, but it's powerful to me.
And Kentucky's Attorney General is addressing a judge's ruling allowing grand jurors to speak about the Breonna Taylor case. Daniel Cameron was at a drug take-back day event earlier today. He was asked about Judge Annie O'Connell's decision to let any grand jurors speak who wanted to about what was presented or talked about during the hearings. Cameron says he will not appeal the ruling and was trying to uphold the confidential nature of the grand jury.
I'm fine with the juror speaking and making their position known. But at the end of the day, we had a responsibility to do the job of looking for the facts and applying that to the law.
2 of the grand jurors have said through their attorney they were not given the opportunity to consider any additional charges against the officer.
Okay, yeah. What did you uphold? You made sure that you cover for the pigs that outright slaughtered Breonna. Then you did everything you thought you could do within your power to discredit them, block it, or whatever it took. My royal family, this is a disgrace. All these folks got murder on their hands. And then what they do is they will conduct themselves like ain't nothing happened. Because in their mind, they'll think, well, we gave them $12 million. That is our money. You know, that needs to come from the fraternal order. That's where it needs to come from. Not from the taxpayers at all. But see, they'll rely on those taxpayer dollars. But do you know a lot of these dummies don't realize we paid them, let alone the attorney general? So I have been saying in this case, day one, ultimately in the end, he will hold the bag. And since he, you know, a power freak too as well, nothing will ever go right in his life henceforth. There is no way that you could have blood on your hands, let alone royal blood, and you just think your life is just going to go quite smooth. Just think about that, my royal family. He don't even know these people. He ain't even met these people. And then he gonna say what they agreed to and all of that. And sit before the world stage and lie like that. So, you know, it'll be more to come. But our queen has not gotten any justice at all. So these people will continue to lose sleep. He will continue to get harassed and all those things. And even once, if it is rectified, they will still get what they're going to get. Because they you know, sometimes when they see the gravity of the situation, then they'll try to do things to correct shit. Not this go round. We are in a different space and time. I am really disgusted. And like I said before, if I can find any more, because I don't know why they piecemeal these interviews the way that they do and spoon feed them to us. We want it in whole, and I always try my best to give what I can give to you in whole, my royal family. So, render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And it's always, my royal family, I thank you for your love, and I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.